Welcome back, everybody, to the Deposit That podcast. I'm sitting here today with a legend in the women's basketball community, turned friend, Ashley Battle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. What's going on, man?
Oh, so when we first booked this episode, we've been trying to book it for a couple months now, right? And
I've been kind of busy.
yeah, it's crazy how things work out after
Right.
the tragic events that happened, on Sunday, and it was kind of a disbelief shock to the world. And I think we should dedicate this episode to Kobe Bryant. So if you have anything you want to say or get it out, in the beginning, I want this episode to be about you, but I also want to pay respect to Kobe and his family.
Wow. You're gonna make me start crying all over.
That's all right. That's all right. Ballin with battle. It could be
Literally,
basketball,
it has
crying.
multiple meetings with bowling. Wow, there's a lot that I could say. Over the year, Kobe and I developed a pretty good relationship. He invited me out to practice with the girls, so I got a chance to meet everybody, including their parents, and everybody was just really the passion for basketball, the passion that he had for his family, and you could see it all over Gigi's face. It was literally like watching a mini Kobe develop. And you could see like that was his process when he was a kid, and all of that was getting instilled not only in her but in the team. When I went there, I mean, they were doing stuff that college players aren't doing. So it was really cool to see, and I really looked forward to really seeing their development. And it's just a tragedy. It really seems like a really bad dream, but today at the office, people knew that we were close. So, people have been coming up to me and just really trying to console me and really being there. And one of the things that was said to me today that I think I'll cherish, because it's really been really hard to really put into words. And, just really knowing that he's helped so many people want to be better and want to not waste any time, not waste any minutes in the day, be there for your family, try to perfect your art. And, something that was said to me today was, rise and shine and crush life. And that was, something that he would say all the time that he mentioned in the interview. And it was mentioned to me today, and it just rise and shine and really try to crush it.
What was it like being around, obviously coming from your background? You played at UConn. You had a great run at UConn. You played in WNBA. You work for the NBA now. What was it like being in his presence? What was it like being around a guy of that stature, a guy of that personality, a guy of that drive, commitment, dedication? What was it like? Was it different than anything else you've ever been around?
No. He's
A regular
really,
guy.
really regular guy, really nice guy. I think he would go out of his way for anybody. And I think with a lot of the stories that you've been hearing, it's been evident that a lot of people are sharing similar stories about him, taking the time to talk with their kids, or taking the time to take a picture with them, or, giving away donations. I mean, there's been a lot of different stories that have been absolutely fantastic. How he considered himself a girl dad, and how he loved, just being a father and being there for his family. So I think, he's a regular guy, but he's done some extraordinary things in his life, in his short life, that everyone could take a little bit of that and really try to improve themselves, and really be there for the people that matter most to them.
So now let's go back to your story. So I know you said you're from Pennsylvania originally, right?
Right.
How'd you wind up at UConn?
Wow. Interesting story. So
I figure Pitt's in your backyard, right?
Pitt, yeah. I grew up, not too far from Pitt, maybe 10 minutes from their campus. My cousin played basketball at Pitt. Then, West Virginia is only like a hour and a half, 2 hours away. I was on a really talented AAU team, the Western Pennsylvania Bruins. We traveled, similarly to a lot of AAU that's current today. We traveled around the country, played different talent. My first letter was in the 7th grade. Prior to
Were you
that,
dunking it or not yet?
I thought I was. Mentally, I was. Mentally, I was. So I was, the only girl on an all male basketball team
Really?
in the 5th grade.
Wow.
So we played in this tournament.
Schooling everybody?
I was schooling everybody. No, it was really good. We had some really, really talented players on that team. But if you ask them, they'd be like, no, Ash was the best, But we were really talented. We had a really great coach and learned a lot of fundamentals really early on. So I'd play in this we played in a tournament and somebody's like, hey, you should play AAU. I'm like, what's that?
Right.
I had no
Right,
idea
right.
what
Back
that
then
was.
it was just coming up. Yeah.
I had no idea what it was. And so he's like, why don't you come to this place? We have practice at this time. And it was literally like 4 months from now. So I would bother my 5th-grade coach like every day, like, is it time? Is it time?
Yeah.
Is it time? And he's like, Ashley.
Are we there yet?
Right, literally. And he's like, it's not for another 4 months. We just told us this yesterday,
Right, right.
So I end up playing on a really, really talented team. We traveled around the country. I got my first letter in the 7th grade. So I at least knew that at bare minimum that I would at least get a full ride.
So was your goal in the 7th grade to get a full ride? Like you knew basketball was it at that point?
Yeah, like I knew then I would at least get a full ride. But obviously,
Sure.
The competitive nature in yourself, you want to do well, you want to win.
Who's that letter from?
I don't want to get them in trouble because it's probably a violation. You probably can't send kids letters, and I don't even know if they right. They can't do that.
Yeah, not
so
7th grade.
It was William and Mary.
Gotcha. Didn't matter now.
It didn't matter now. But so my team, we played, we won. We were the number 1 team in the country as 12-year-olds. We came in 3rd 3 years in a row. Prior to that, so I was getting a lot of recognition in high school. So that allowed me to go to a boarding school in Wheeling, West Virginia called Lindsley.
Okay.
So I left the city of Pittsburgh. I still lived there, but it was literally like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Gotcha.
Where born on the playgrounds where I was literally it's like my life.
Sure.
So inner city of Pittsburgh, I get up, go to Wheeling, West Virginia.
Middle of nowhere, probably.
No,
right?
There's not
Farmland.
Not necessarily farmland, but it was nothing that I was accustomed to.
Wasn't Pitt.
It wasn't Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Wasn't that much diversity at the school, but I would tell you it's one of my best decisions to ever go there. I still have really great friends from there. I'm still really good friends with a lot of the teachers.
Do you think it changed your outlook and your perception on life, being out there in a different culture?
I think it definitely, it helped because previously I was probably in a predominantly African-American school, although the schools were good, but it was Pittsburgh public schools. I go there and I'm around, a lot of wealthy people,
all rich white kids.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you have to learn how to maneuver and how to handle yourself in different situations at a young age is invaluable.
Sure.
And so that's part of the lesson that I learned. And my principal there, his name is Reno Diorio. He's the type of guy that
is he still there?
He's the president.
Gotcha.
He's not the principal anymore.
He just sits back behind the desk.
He just sits back behind the desk and
he's like a statue.
Right. And so he was there forever and had a lot of alumni relations. So he kind of handles alumni relations, but he can see the potential in kids sometimes before they even realize the potential in themselves. So I knew that I had a talent, but it was just really trying to cultivate that and make sure that I don't screw it up. So every day he would give me lectures.
I don't see you being
day.
the person that wants to get lectured every day.
Every day I would get a lecture from him. Ashley, you're the only person that can mess this up. Like, you have to be smart. You have to maneuver. Like, literally every day I would get a lecture. And even when I talk to him today, it's like, hey, do you need a lecture? And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Send me a text.
I think I have it memorized. I have it memorized by now. But again, it's one of those things that, if something would have happened when I was younger, if I made a mistake when I was younger, who knows if we would be here today having this conversation.
Sure.
So it was just one of those things that really kept me on the straight and narrow. I think academically, they're a superior school than the public schools were at the time. And it helped, academically meet athletics. So all of it kind of was up to par. So I talked a little bit about AAU. my team was really good. We had, a player that played at Penn State, a player that's like the all-time leading scorer at West Virginia, a player that went to Villanova, Virginia Tech. Like we were
big schools.
We were really, really good at a really young age. But not only did these ladies do well, but I end up meeting, you see today, you see how like LeBron and all those guys are really good friends, but they've known each other forever.
Sure.
It's the same thing. So a lot of the girls that I knew then, we would talk about maybe potentially going to the same school. Maria Conlon, she played in Connecticut, but our teams would miraculously be on the same flight, and we would be at the same hotel. So we were each team's respective best player, and we just became close. So I've known her forever. Diana Taurasi is another one. Like
she was a legend, right?
She was a legend in high school, and
she really put, I feel like, women's basketball really on the map during your guys' run, right?
Yeah. I mean, we had some talented players, but Dia's definitely.
She a personal friend of yours?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, she would call me in high school. It was like, you got to go to UConn. Like, we can make history, you know. And she was right. And so.
Was she older than you?
No, we're the same age. We're the same year. We came in.
Where's she from? You know?
California.
I gotcha.
So, and I'm like, it's 1 a.m. We're on the West Coast.
Go to sleep.
Chill. Like, I'm trying to sleep. So, you see, you go to all these tournaments and you start seeing the same people. You start going to camps. Elena Beard, who just retired. AB and AB. So we would always room together. Isis Tillis. They all went to Duke, and I almost went to Duke. So like you see a lot of the same people at the same camps, and you become friends, and then you're like, it wouldn't be bad to like play with this person. You already know them.
It'd be fun. It's like a dream team.
Fun, right? Yeah. So my last 3 schools was Penn State, Duke, and UConn. I don't think I really wanted to be close to home, so I ended up leaving. I didn't want to stay 3 hours outside of Pittsburgh, and so I was like, all right, and Penn State's out. Then it was Duke and UConn. So my mom, she's just like, it's Duke. How do you turn down Duke? And, one of my favorite players at the time was Grant Hill.
Sure.
Obviously, he wasn't there at the time, but he was hurt, so he would always be at Duke.
Right.
Having rehab, and they would literally tell me, they're like, hey, Grant's here.
Yeah.
You should come. And I'm like, maybe.
A legend.
Right. But, one of the things that really stuck out about UConn was there was a couple things. They had just come off a national championship. Another player that I grew up with in Pittsburgh, Swin Cash, she was there. So that made it really comfortable for me. Maria had already signed. Diana had already signed. And I had really great relationships with them going in. But then also my grandmother passed away my senior year, and Gino was really like the only one to express his condolences.
Serious?
Yeah. So that really struck a chord with me.
Interesting. So now you go to UConn.
Yep.
From what I read online, did you have an injury your freshman year?
I did. I had Tommy John.
Tommy John.
Yeah.
In basketball.
Yeah. Really weird, right?
How'd that happen?
You
play baseball on the side too,
right.
or no?
No. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Tommy John is a pitcher's injury.
Yeah.
There's a lot of torque that pitchers put on their elbow.
From throwing it down so much.
And, but I would imagine a lot of people have hit their funny bone.
Of course.
And that feeling that you get up your arm.
Tingling, you hate everything for a quick second.
Right. So that ligament, I tore that ligament. And how it happened was we're playing in Miami, and I dove on the ball. So my body's on the ground, my hand's on the ball. Someone went to dive on the ball, missed the ball completely, landed on my elbow.
And that was it.
Now,
are you lefty or righty?
I'm righty.
Oh, so it didn't mess up your free throw or anything?
No.
Because Kobe would have shot one-handed if he had that, right?
I was crying.
So,
no.
Okay, so now you go and get surgery?
I have surgery. I healed really quickly. So,
now, were you starting at the time, or were you coming off the bench?
I was coming off the bench as a freshman, playing pretty good minutes. And I went, everybody's like, oh, you're healing really well. Let's shoot for the Tennessee game, Martin Luther King Day. So back then,
wow. Powerful all the way around.
We used to play Tennessee twice a year, and this was like the next big game. That
was Pat Summitt the coach there? Right?
Yes, absolutely. And so we were aiming for that, and then sure enough, I get hit in practice again. So remember I was talking about that the funny bone.
Yeah.
You get hit in the funny bone.
Yeah.
So mine was just a little exaggerated. So just a little bit. I get hit in the funny bone. I like lose feeling going up my arm,
Oh,
and my two fingers for like a few days, maybe even a week.
struck a nerve, literally.
Right. And so I mean everything was fine, but it was just like a shock to my arm. And so they're
Sure.
like, "Yep, that's it. You're gonna
Cut
redshirt. You're cut off." You know.
So did you wind up playing 4 years after that, or just
I did.
3? Oh, you did. So you
I
wound up
did. I
playing
was there for
4.5
5.
years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, in women's basketball, is it common to leave early and go to the WNBA, or is it kind of like known you do your 4 years, you graduate, and then move on to? Because at the time, WNBA was still relatively new, right?
Right.
Within 10 years or so,
Right.
give or take, right?
No, I mean
15 years.
back
maybe?
then it wasn't common for
At all, right.
people. I mean, it's still really not that common.
Has anyone ever done it?
There's been a couple players. I believe Epiphany Prince left Rutgers and went overseas to play.
Gotcha. You probably see more of that than going to the WNBA.
And then she played in the WNBA. But most of I would venture to say 90% of the WNBA athletes have graduated college.
Interesting. What was it like being on that run? I mean, again, it was kind of like you guys were in a league, from what I remember, right? Being like a high school or
Right.
like college kid at Fordham in the Bronx. What was it like being in a league of your own? I mean, you guys were just wiping people up the court, right? I
Right.
mean, like winning about 40, 50 a game, like cleaning up.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like the Beatles were coming into town. Like every time we went someplace, and to be like, oh, this is the first sellout we've ever had. We're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But it was always interesting because you always had a target on your back, so
Yeah,
you
we're trying to
always
knock
had
you
to
off.
you always had to perform. And I came in on a year where we had just won a national championship in 2000, and I came in 2000 that fall. So there's 5 of us coming in with like majority of the players returning from this national championship team, and we're just wide-eyed kids, looking forward to playing, and so it's like the first practice, and everybody's like, yeah, this is gonna be great, we're ready. Like the 5 of us were super excited. So my incoming class was Diana, myself, Maria Conlon, Jessica Moore, and Morgan Valley. And so people called us the fam because we didn't do anything without one another. Like we'd wake up, we'd wait for each other.
That was like the real Fab Five.
Like literally, we'd wake up, we'd wait for each other. We'd all go to breakfast together. We'd all go to the gym together. We'd wait for everybody.
Little
We'd
wolf
leave
pack.
the gym. Like literally, we never did anything without. If you saw one of us, you saw all 5 of us.
That's cool. Roll deep.
We definitely, and we still do actually. We talk, pretty much every day.
You got group text going on?
We do. We do almost every day. And so we're just, just wide-eyed kids, like looking forward to practice. So, the beginning of practice starts. It's like 3-man weave, 4-man weave,
Sure.
shell. We're doing all this stuff. Maybe like an hour goes by, hour and a half. And we're just like, whew, that was a great practice. We're all just like, man, that was really good. And then I remember people looking at us. I think Tamika Williams, her name's Raymond now, Tamika Raymond. She looks over, she's like, practice? Like, that's just the warm-up.
Wow.
We're like, what? What do you mean that's just the warm-up?
So it was a whole different ballgame.
Oh, my goodness. Just so intense, from start to finish. And I think, the attention, it was always, we're playing for a national championship. It didn't matter, if we're playing Seton Hall. It didn't matter if we're playing Fordham. It didn't matter. It was, this game is to prepare you for a national championship. So we prepared for, each game as if we're preparing to play a national championship. And, back then even now, like our practices were harder than our games. And that freshman team was probably one of the most talented teams that I've ever played on, and we didn't win. You still need a lot of lady luck on your side in order to win. We just had a lot of injuries. Shea Ralph went down with a season-ending ACL tear. Svetlana Brosimova had a back injury, and those are, arguably 2 of the best players to ever come out of UConn. And we still had Sue, Diana, Swin, Tamika, and we still had all Asia. These guys are, Swin's eligible to go in the Hall of Fame this year. Like there's arguably, some
Next wave of legends. Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Sure.
Next wave of basketball legends, and Diana and Sue are still playing. So that team probably had 10, 11 players go
Yeah,
pro.
unreal. Yeah, unheard of. Now, do you think that the practices, more so than the games, prepared you for real life, or
Oh,
no?
without a doubt. I mean, our practices were hard.
So
You
real
know,
life is like easy now. Now you're like,
I
well, I
mean,
gotta
it's
roll
not
out of
easy.
bed,
It's not easy.
show up,
Trust and believe
get
that
a
it's still not
paycheck.
easy. But I think it prepares you for what life has to offer, because life isn't going to be just, straight, straight line and linear. It's, you have ups, you have downs, you have lows, and how do you,
Suicides.
right? Well, how do you prepare for that?
Right.
How do you react? How do you recover from that? And so I think, a lot of it, in practice, at a UConn practice, is you're going through all of those things in practice. You're 1 minute you could have made the best play of your life, and the next minute you may be getting yelled at for doing the dumbest play in your
Sure.
life.
Sure.
Those things, all of that happens
You go from
within a
hero to
practice.
zero real quick, and
Real
vice
quick.
versa. Yeah.
Real quick,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where, how do you react? How do you recover from that? How do you come back? Are you going to let, that situation get the best of you and it affects the next 4 plays? Or are you going to rally and make a play and let that take you and carry you into the next couple plays? So, our practices were really tough. I went back to practice not too long ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy I don't have to do this anymore.
But you would do it again in a second.
I would do it again in a second.
If you're 10 years younger, you'd be right back at it.
Yep, absolutely.
So I feel like being in the corporate professional world, right? It lacks that camaraderie. It lacks that teammate mentality, the majority wise. Like we spoke about
Right.
earlier, like there's those older 15, 20, 30-year-old people that have been there a long time,
Right.
that keep the younger, newer blood down, right? It's not tough love. It's just tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's corporate America's hard.
Why do you think that is though? Right. So when you show up again, you said you came up with 5 freshmen, right? And then
Right.
there were a bunch of older girls there, but you guys blended and you guys had nothing but respect and hard work for each other.
Right, I mean,
why
but
is it different in the corporate world?
I don't know if it's necessarily, different in the corporate world. I think, and when we were 5 freshmen coming in, I just think there's a culture that's established, and
But you
and
know
you
that
have
going
to-
in.
yeah, but you don't know it.
You think you know it.
think you know it, but
Yeah.
you don't know it. You don't know what
Till you catch that elbow.
exactly.
Right.
You don't know it until it's really like broken down to you what hard work really is. You think you're working hard, but
Right.
you're not working hard.
Right.
You have to be selfless. You have to like take a step back sometimes to make 10 strides forward. And I don't think corporate America is very much different than that. I think you have to, when you come in, you have to be willing to learn, willing to grow. And sometimes you may have to take a step back to go forward.
When you left UConn, you played in WNBA.
I did.
How was that experience?
It was great.
Who'd you
like,
play for?
I got drafted to Seattle, so
Okay.
we won.
Oh, you went way out west.
I did. We won 3 national championships.
Wow.
At UConn.
Back to back to back.
Back to back to back. It's a funny story.
Three-peat.
Really funny story. So last night, I'm with Shamiko Holtzclaw, really, really good friend of mine. And
One of the first legends, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, she is arguably, she's arguably the best women's basketball player to ever play.
Really?
And so she lost the bet because,
Did you post something about that?
I
Yeah, you
did.
did, yeah.
I did. You check it out. Real Ashley Battle. Go check it out. So she wanted to bet on the UConn Tennessee game because we had such great rivalries throughout the years. And then
Did she play at UT?
She did play at UT, and she is everything for UT.
Was she wearing orange?
Oh my goodness. So no, she wasn't wearing orange, but last night. But
Inside.
the bet was whoever loses has to wear the other team's, jersey or shirt or something like that,
Yep.
and you have to post it on social media. I don't know if you guys follow Shamiko Holtzclaw, but she has like 30,000 plus followers. And so she thought she was slick. She wanted to make this bet like when UT was up.
Is this with you?
Yeah, this is what I mean. So she texted me like, "Hey, so we betting or what?" And I'm like, "What do you want to bet?" So she came up with this idea.
Yeah.
She came up with this. I was like,
Sneaky.
"All right." I was like, "All right, bet." So last night, of course, I had my UConn gear, And I'm like, you got to wear this with pride. You look good in blue.
That's it.
You look good in blue.
So UConn came back and won.
UConn came back and won. And so she's telling me, she goes, wait, how many rings did you win?
Now it goes personal.
Right. And I'm like, 3. And she was like, but was it 3 in a row? I was like, yes, it was 3 in a row. Yes, it was 3 in a row. And then it's just like, well, we did it first. I mean, it's
so she lost multiple bets.
Oh my goodness. It's just great because,
it's fun.
It's a lot of fun. And, a lot of people on the outside think that rivalry, that everyone hates each other, but we're all like really good friends. Nothing but love and nothing but respect.
What's she doing now? Is she still in the sports world?
She's still in the sports world. She actually has a podcast too.
Oh, no kidding.
And
you haven't been on it?
I haven't been on it.
What kind? That's
no.
That's that rivalry stuff right there.
It's not. No, I mean she does a podcast on like mental health and wellness.
Oh wow, that's awesome. It's huge.
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
Very big
so
into that.
she goes around and does speaking engagements on that as well. So
she based out in New York.
Thing. No, she's based out of LA, but she's from New York.
Gotcha.
And to circle back to UConn, Tennessee for 1 second, and then we could go into the pros. But great Pat Summitt story. We played them in the Final Four, and again, it's the whole UConn Tennessee rivalry, and everybody is really just amped up about it. And they were really young at the time. We were a little bit more mature. We ended up winning the game. And, we're ready. We're excited to go to the national championship game. So typically after games, the players would, go into the locker room, and then we'd have maybe like a couple minutes to ourselves, and then the coaches would come in. So this was no different. We had a couple minutes to ourselves, and the door opens, and we think it's our coaching staff that's coming in, and it's Pat Summitt. And so when I tell you, you can hear like a pin drop.
Yeah.
We're all just we all just froze. And
you guys are getting yelled at.
Well, but she came in and she was just really gracious and really.
She seemed to be that way.
Came in and talked to us and like, you guys are a great team. You guys need to win it all. This is great for women's basketball.
That's awesome.
And just really congratulated us. And I've never seen anybody do that. That's
like a real leader, a real winner.
It really is.
And her history speaks for that.
Oh my God. I mean, she was a living legend, when we were playing. And so it was just really remarkable. And it's definitely another thing by another great person that I will never forget.
Now, was it common when you played to form relationships with other coaches and other players on other teams that you didn't know, or was it kind of more like, because social media didn't really exist then, right?
Right. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I mean, so when you're a kid, I talked about AAU, so you get recruited by some of these coaches, you build like a really good relationship, and then sometimes you'd play against them, and there's no harm. There's no harm in saying hello or how's everything going. A lot of us played USA basketball growing up, so some of the coaches that you were recruited by would be on that coaching staff, and you'd still have a relationship with them. So again, I mean, it's the basketball world is so small. You see the same people all the time, and even now when I go out, I still see coaches that may have recruited me when I was a kid, and I still go and say hello.
Interesting. So fast forward to the pros.
Right.
Now you're in the pros. You're in Seattle. What was that like?
Right. So
UConn was probably bigger than WNBA back then, right?
I mean, it's
fan wise.
Probably. I mean, it's just a different. It's hard to compare. It's just completely different. But so I get drafted to Seattle. It was really cool because we were all on campus waiting. Like, and then back then, now the draft is like televised on ESPN. It's like really great. Sure. It's like the first round was on ESPN, but then the second round, it was like we were watching
ESPN
it from the computer.
Ocho.
Right. It was like literally ESPN and Ocho. And we're trying to figure out, what's going on. So the phone rings and it's for Jessica Moore, and she got drafted to Charlotte.
First? Out of you guys?
Out of the two of us, yeah. And so she and I both redshirted. So we stayed for 5 years when Diana Maria Morgan left the year before. And so she gets drafted, and we're just screaming in the background because we're all so happy and for her. And then next thing you know, my phone rings, and I'm like, and everybody's looking, And I'm like staring at the phone, and I'm like, answer it. And so I answer the phone, and it's another Hall of Fame coach, Ann Donovan, and
Sure.
she's like, well, I got your number from Sue because Sue was already there, and she's like, we're gonna take you at the next pick, and we're really looking forward to having you out there. And I'm like, oh my goodness,
That's
this is
awesome. Yeah,
fantastic.
dream
I'm
come
like,
true.
first off, I've never been to Seattle, but I'm like, it has to be great. I'm like, but Sue's there. Sue and I have a really great relationship, even to this day. And then the pick before me, Seattle's pick before me was somebody that I grew up with, who we played in the same AAU club. She was just a year younger.
Reuniting.
So I'm like, this is fantastic. And I mentioned before about the ups and downs and this and the other. I, thought I was doing well, and, I was trying to do what the coaches asked me to do. So one day, they would come in, Jesse Kinlaw and Jenny Busick, who Jenny's now coaching with Dallas Mavericks. And they would
That's the one that just got hired.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, she coaches there for a couple years now.
Yeah.
So she would come up to me. They would come up to me like, all right, you got to rebound today. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I do that. All right, you got to score today. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So I would,
Easy.
you're right, easy, whatever you want. Like, I got you. And then they were like, Ann wants to see you after practice. And I'm like, okay. And so I go in there, and she's like, I don't really like your height. And I'm like, what?
Flat out.
Flat out. And I was just like, okay, well, thank you for the opportunity.
Right. Sorry, mom and dad. Right.
Right. I'm like,
all right.
I'm a pretty big guard. But
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks for the opportunity. And I left. And I was
So
pretty
she
distraught.
cut you?
She cut me. I was pretty distraught. It was like the first time really in my life where I wasn't really considered good enough.
Wanted, yeah.
Right. I've played all over the world. I played USA basketball.
What was that like internally? Kind of like,
I mean, it's a self-check, immediate self-check, and I had to make a choice. I interned with Nike the summer before.
oh, they're out in Seattle, right? Washington,
Beaverton,
yeah.
Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah, Oregon.
But it was very close.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, do I go work, or do I prove to myself and everybody else that I'm talented enough to play in this league?
So you came to the fork in the road.
Fork in the road.
What'd you choose?
I ended up going overseas.
Probably a great experience though.
I had a great experience overseas. Coming back to New York, I made the team, and I had a pretty good career after that.
So you played for Liberty?
Yeah.
Oh wow, how'd that go?
It was,
Fun?
New York is New York, man.
Yeah.
You gotta love it here.
Yeah.
And I think, one thing that gets lost in the whole like athlete and, playing professionally is that oftentimes you don't know if today's going to be your last day on this team. Not everybody is, the top 1%. And so you have to, every day you got to grind it out. And I never really thought about it like that until like years later. It was just more.
You don't realize it.
Right. You don't realize it when you're going through it. But I knew that every year I had to make the team. Even though I had a contract, I knew every year I had to go out and make the team. And I had to play well enough to make sure that I stayed on the team.
Did you come in to UConn when Ray Allen was still there, or he was gone?
No, he was gone.
Yeah.
I was with.
Rip?
No. How old do you think I am?
You said 2001.
Rip wasn't there in
When
2001.
was he there? How old is he? He's old now, right?
I was there with Emeka,
Okafor. Yeah.
Charlie, Rudy, Karan, Ben. Like, those are my guys.
Wow. Interesting.
So that 2014,
Yeah.
we both won at the same time.
That's awesome.
That was
that was my senior in high school.
That was fun.
That's
time.
crazy. So, who was your basketball role model growing up? Who'd you look up to? Jordan?
Of course.
Who else? Anyone else?
Of course. I mean, Jordan was to me was just everything. Obviously, I said before, like I really enjoyed watching Grant Hill play.
They say if he wasn't injured all the time, he would have been one of the best all time ever. And he still kind of
I don't doubt it.
Right? I mean, he had just smooth moves.
I mean, he was just can do whatever you wanted on the court. Whatever he wanted to do on the court, he was capable of doing that. And obviously, Kobe just his work ethic and his determination to not settle for anything less than 100% all the time from everybody. And I think that it was also something that was just really what we learned, at UConn, is just that you have to give it your all the time, and you have to be selfless. Like, not everybody's gonna score, not everybody's going to do this. And I think that's what I had to figure out too, because everybody comes in there, you're all everything to your team. Everyone's all everything. You're Gatorade Player of the Year, you're National Players of the Year. Everybody's all everything to everybody. And so, and again, I mentioned before, like, that team was just coming off a national championship. It's like, how am I supposed to get minutes? Sometimes you
How do I find them?
How do I find them? Like,
Yep.
sometimes you got to figure
Yep.
that out and you got to do the dirty work. Like, I made a career out of, like,
Well, you're a
really
Pittsburgh
doing the
girl,
dirty.
right? You said this
Yeah,
I'm gonna
blue
confirm.
collar,
I'm really gonna
just-
confirm this. So, you remember Cordell Stewart?
Yeah,
Remember his nickname?
Slash.
You know why they called him Slash?
He was everywhere.
So that's it. Like, you gotta find the way. He played quarterback, running back, receiver. I think he was a punt returner in
He
college
did
for a
everything.
minute, right?
He did everything.
Everything. I think
Everything.
that's like, in my opinion, like what separates like winners from losers, right? Winners are gonna find a way. Losers are gonna make an excuse as to why they can't find a way.
Right.
And I think Slash. I grew up. I love Cordell, like, because he changed. For me, growing up in the early '90s, right, as like a young football player, he like changed the game, right? He was the first guy to again do it all. There was no
Right.
other person doing it all. Like,
No.
maybe Dion. I love Dion, prime time, right?
But he wasn't quarterback.
He wasn't quarterback. Wasn't quarterback.
And obviously I watched multiple sports. I'm still just a fan of sports.
Can you still play?
Well, I just had hip surgery.
Oof.
Like,
You still shoot though. They say you never lose
but
a
I
shot.
I was still playing. Give me a couple months and I'll be back out there. But I just had hip surgery on the 9th.
You think it was from wear and tear?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. And I
Fully
probably
recovered?
right now no.
No.
I still have a little. I call it a little gangsta lean
Yeah,
in
all
my
right.
walk, like a little
Yep. I get it.
little swagger
That's
in
all
my
right.
walk.
Makes you a
but
little cooler though.
It does. I'm just kind of just strutting along. So if you see me walking around
Yeah.
Midtown, please
That's
don't
it.
hit me. I'd really appreciate it if you don't.
You just
hit
had surgery
my left
recently,
side.
right? Like
Yeah, January
last
9th.
fall. Oh, really? Oh, like a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Oof. And you're walking all. You're walking.
Yeah, I'm off crutches. The doctor's like, "Are you?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Man,
Are
I
you
got
human?
I got Wolverine healing
That's
powers
it.
up in here."
Oh
Let's
my
go.
gosh. So now now you're in the NBA,
Right.
right? What's your role in the NBA, and where do you see that kind of leading to?
So I'm doing a program where you have a year. It's a year-long program. You kind of learn the business side of basketball. So I've worked with
Business out of basketball.
business side of
Oh,
basketball.
business side of basketball.
So so I know the business side of a
Ugly,
player.
probably, right?
A player.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Ugly.
yeah. I mean, it's a dog eats all world
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
But
especially here in the city.
but really, just learning how do you run a league.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, and there's a ton of moving parts. So I, did work in the WNBA. I did work in basketball operations. I've gone to some teams and worked alongside with them. But really, it's just a matter of, a lot of it's still similar. You got to grind it out, and especially if you're on, working at the league, sometimes you're up really late because there's West Coast games. So
And 3-hour difference.
and a 3-hour difference. So there's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of, how do you, what's going to happen next. It's very fast paced. And sometimes you have to like almost double dutch to see like where can you jump in and where can you fit in. But it's been a really great experience. What's next? I don't know. Hopefully
Coaching?
maybe if the right opportunity comes around, I'm not opposed to coaching. I feel like
What about
I
going
still have
out
a lot.
to Kobe's training facility? I feel like that's something that could pull you out there.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I think that would be very nostalgic.
Yep.
And obviously, I wouldn't shy away from it if the opportunity presented itself.
So when you were playing, up until what age did you stop challenging the boys that you could outshoot them, out rebound them, beat them to the hoop? Or you still to this day call them out?
I still call them out. Like it's one of those things that I don't think it'll ever go away because people think that they can beat you.
Yeah, and they know they can't.
And they really
They
believe
think,
it. Like,
but they know they can't.
but guys like really believe that, And then I have to go out there and I'm just like,
do I really have to do this to you?
Right. And so
in Tim's or no? You got boots on?
I'm not taking my beanie off.
Yeah.
That's what's happening though. But like the other day, like I go play at LA Fitness because like now I'm just like I just need the steps.
Yep,
I just need
That's
the steps.
That's it.
So, but it's really funny because sometimes I'll go and the first time that I went, guys didn't know who I was, and often,
you weren't getting picked.
Well, they're really nice about it. They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you can play.
Run with
No,
us.
you guys sit out this first.
Yeah.
You'll get into the next game. I'm like, all right, cool, like no problem. But guys want to kind of flex their masculinity sometimes,
Which is a big problem in general.
well, yeah, which is a big problem in general. But they want to flex their masculinity, so they'll be like, oh well, they'll try to rush you and try to like scare you into making a turnover or something like that. Well, in this particular case, when that happened,
Hit him with the spin move.
oh my goodness, it was something sick. It was something sick. It was just a lot of reacting. They went this way, I went that way.
Yeah.
Somebody else came. I split the defense and got a layup.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
Ain't
Like
sitting out, next time.
oh my! It was just really really funny. And then after that, people were looking at me like, "Did you play anywhere?"
Nah.
And I'm like, "No, it's
2K.
just casual. All right, just casually play every once in a while." And then it just came out that I played at UConn. I played in the league, and they're just like, "Oh,
Makes sense now.
makes sense. Makes a lot of sense now."
So as we close up every episode, I don't know if you've listened to any podcasts before that we've done here, but deposit that means I want my guests to be able to deposit one thing to our listeners' memory banks, right? Deposit that means deposit that to your brain. So whether you give advice to young girls, whether you give advice to people in general, whether you give advice to basketball players, whatever, what's one thing you want to leave the listeners with after all the stuff that's gone on in the past week in your life, based on all your valuable experiences? What's one thing you want to leave everybody with, advice wise?
I would say, throughout life, there's gonna be challenges. There's gonna be hard times, and I think this goes for on the court as well. And then there's gonna be some really magical times, and through those hard times, keep working, keep striving, keep perfecting yourself, and things will get better and things will get easier, once you put the work in. But you got to put the time in. You got to put the time into yourself. You got to put the time into your craft, and really just continue to learn and to continue to grow. Never stop learning.
Super valuable. So last thing, now I'm going to ask you one question. When someone comes to that fork in the road, what do you recommend them to do?
Really evaluate each option. If there's multiple options, evaluate them, and really kind of ask yourself, like, I don't think I would have had an issue with myself if I didn't go and make sure that and prove to myself that I couldn't play. Like, I knew that I could play in the league, so I had to prove to myself
No one else.
and no one else, and to other people, like, nah, like I can hoop and I can play, and I had to do that for myself. And I think I would have had a really hard time if I didn't go and at least try one more time. And so I would say for people who are out there, if you're at a split decision and you don't know what to do, please weigh the options. But then, you got to ask yourself, are you cool but not doing this? And if you can live with that, then it'll be all right. But I don't think I would have. I think I would have struggled mightily.
Still a void. Yeah, it would have been a void.
Yeah, if I
Unknown.
didn't try. Right.
Well, super excited to have you on the show. Awesome getting to know you. I think you need to let the world see your personality more. Like, I feel like you got like these one-liners that you're just holding back on from the world to see. But
yeah,
I better start seeing them more on Instagram.
Maybe.
But it's been a true pleasure having you on. If I can do anything to help you out in
Thanks
the
for having
future, I look forward to seeing what's next.
If you're on Instagram, hit me up. I'm pretty
Pretty, and her Instagram name is what? Real Ashley Battle.
Real Ashley Battle. But I'm pretty social, so if you guys have any issues, if you want to talk about it, you don't feel comfortable, I'm always available.
So make sure you guys reach out. Appreciate you having on the show.
Thank you.